Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I think text 7 we covered yesterday. That's right, yeah. So we'll go through text 8 today instead. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, titled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. Text number 8. Amanchya chabhya nugnataha Amanchya chabhya nugnata Parisvajya bhivadyatam Parisvajya bhivadyatam Aruroha ratham kaischit Aruroha ratham kaischit Parisvakto abhivaditaha Parisvakto abhivaditaha Amanchya chabhyanugnata Parisvajya bhivadyatam Aruroha ratam kaischit Parisvakto abhivaditaha Amancha chabhyanugnataha Parisvajya bhivadyatam Aruroha ratam kaischit Parisvakto abhivaditaha Mataji. Okay. Word for word translation. Amancha, taking permission. Cha, and. Abhyanugnataha, being permitted. Parisvajya, embracing. Abhivajya, bowing down at the feet. Tam, onto Maharaj Yudhishthira. Aruroha, ascended. Ratham, the chariot. Kaischit, by someone. Parisvaktaha, being embraced. Abhivaditaha, being offered obeisances. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Afterwards, when the Lord asked permission to depart, and the king gave it, the Lord offered his respects to Maharaj Yudhishthira by bowing down at his feet, and the king embraced him. After this, the Lord, being embraced by others and receiving their obeisances, got into his chariot. Purport. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the elder cousin of Lord Krishna, and therefore while departing from him, the Lord bowed down at the king's feet. The king embraced him as a younger brother, although the king knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord takes pleasure when some of his devotees accept him as less important in terms of love. No one is greater than or equal to the Lord, but he takes pleasure in being treated as younger than his devotees. These are all transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The impersonalists cannot enter into the supernatural roles played by the devotee of the Lord. Thereafter, Bhima and Arjuna embraced the Lord because they were of the same age. But Nakula and Sahadev bowed down before the Lord because they were younger than he. Om Agyana Timranjasya Agyananjana Salakaya Chaksurumanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauraktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So, just a quick recap of what we've went through over the past few weeks. First of all, we discussed we were hearing about the famous prayers of Queen Kunti. Queen Kunti was glorifying Krishna in so many beautiful verses and appealing to the Lord to please stay back in Hastinapur for a bit longer and please don't leave. And then after hearing Queen Kunti's prayers, then Maharaj Yudhishthira, he also comes, approaches the Lord and requests the Lord to please stay for a bit longer in Hastinapur. Then Krishna, he decides, okay, then Krishna stays for even longer in Hastinapur. Even though the battle is finished and the Pandavas have won, still Krishna decides to stay back in Hastinapur just to please his devotees. And this we were discussing again in yesterday's purport. We were hearing how Krishna, he's always looking to please his devotees. And for the pleasure of his devotees, he is ready to do anything. And Krishna, he stayed back in Hastinapur just to please Maharaj Yudhishthira, Queen Kunti. And yesterday's verse, especially we're hearing about Mother Subhadra, which Krishna's younger sister. So Krishna also stayed back to please Subhadra because she went through a great loss because she was very young. And at such a young age, when she had Maharaj Parikshit still in the womb, she lost her husband. And she became a widow at such a young age. So therefore, to please Mother Subhadra also, Krishna, he stayed back. So that's what Prabhupada was explaining in yesterday's verse. So after Krishna stayed back, first thing he did was he took the Pandavas to see Bhishma Dev. So to please another devotee, Bhishma Dev, Krishna, he enacts this another pastime. So this one we saw in the previous chapter, the passing away of Bhishma Dev. So Krishna takes the Pandavas to see Bhishma Dev and he asks specifically for the Pandavas to dress very nicely in all royal garments and come in a nice chariot. So that way Bhishma Dev will get pleasure. Because Bhishma Dev, he always desired that the Pandavas, they become the rightful kings of Hastinapur, of the whole world. And he was designed to see this. So Krishna, he fulfilled this desire of Bhishma Dev. And plus, Krishna, he glorified Bhishma Dev among so many great personalities who had come from all over the universe to see Bhishma Dev passing away. And finally, Krishna, he fulfilled Bhishma Dev's desire. Bhishma Dev desired that he pass away from this world at an auspicious time and at a time, seeing Lord Krishna in Krishna's presence. So Krishna fulfilled that desire of Bhishma Dev also. So like this, we're seeing, time and time again, how Krishna, he's always so nicely taking care of his devotees and pleasing his devotees. We're saying that with the Pandavas, he's trying to please Kunti Marni, please King Yudhishthira, please his sister Subhadra Marni, please Bhishma Dev. And now, finally in this chapter 10, departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. So now finally the moment has come when Krishna, after staying in Hastinapur, not just for a few extra days or a few extra weeks, but it's mentioned for a couple of months, Krishna stayed back extra in Hastinapur just to please his devotees. And now Krishna is finally going to go towards, leave Hastinapur and go back to his city Dwarka. Before that, in this chapter, we heard some descriptions about how Maharaj Yudhishthira ruled his kingdom after he became king. Parikshit Maharaj, at the start of this chapter, he asked a question. Sorry, not Parikshit Maharaj, Sonaka Muni, he asked this question. After killing his enemies who desired to usurp his rightful inheritance, how did the greatest of all religious men, Maharaj Yudhishthira, assisted by his brothers, rule his subjects? Surely he could not freely enjoy his kingdom with unrestricted consciousness. So Prabhupada writes that this question was very important by Sonaka Rishi, who wanted to know about the behavior of Maharaj Yudhishthira when he was at ease to enjoy the kingdom. So generally there's the saying, power corrupts, Naturally, when a lot of power, opulence comes, the tendency to become very proud and, just let the senses go uncontrolled and, false ego goes up high and one starts taking things for granted. So that's the natural tendency that and we see that through, modern history, ancient history, how when great warriors or kings, or ministers, they would get a lot of power, they would abuse that power. But so Sonaka Rishi, so that's how he's inquiring. Usually power tends to corrupt the person, but surely Maharaj Yudhishthira, he's a pure devoted Lord, so surely this didn't happen to him. So how did he rule his kingdom? So then we hear a couple of verses describing how gloriously Maharaj Yudhishthira, he ruled his kingdom. And so many descriptions given how during Maharaj Yudhishthira's times, all the natural resources, they were in abundance. The cows' milk bags were overflowing, the waterfalls, the seas, the rivers, the pearls being produced in the oceans, all fruits, vegetables, everything was in abundance. So Mother Nature, she's also a personality, she's Bhumi Devi. So Mother Nature, when she sees that the ruler of the planet is a devotee of the Lord, then naturally she's inspired to fully give all of opulences. But when she sees that there's demoniac kings and demoniac persons residing on her, then she restricts the supply. And that's what we're seeing now in Kali Yuga. When we hear these descriptions, of how Maharaj Yudhishthira ruled, I'll just read a few more verses. The cloud showered all the water the people needed. The earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to the fatty milk bag and the cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. Because of the kings having no enemy, the living beings were not at any time disturbed by mental agonies, diseases, or excessive heat or cold. So the weather was perfect, the nature, the surroundings, fruits, vegetables, everything was just perfect during Maharaj Yudhishthira's time. But nowadays we see it's not like that. If we just do some research on the net, we see every year so much land is being going through deforestation. Every year so many different species, plants and animals, they're becoming extinct. So it's predicting in the future, our children or grandchildren, they won't even get to see half the things that we're eating now. So just like now we have a certain variety of different fruits and veggies. In the future, in 100 years, half of those veggies, they'll be gone. Fruits, they won't even get to see. And same thing with animals. So many animals, they're being extinct. And so many vast areas of land, every year they're going through deforestation, and they're becoming, so much agriculture is going on, but all the agriculture in modern day is mainly going through chemicals. So in the previous times, before this chemical industry came in, people used to do agriculture just with natural things, just with the bull and through natural ways. But now with all these chemicals being put into ground, the ground is being, destroyed. So like this, we're seeing nowadays, there's so much food, so much, what's the word? Like the supply of food, grains, vegetables, trees, flowers, the different species of animals. We're seeing every year it's getting less and less. And the resources, the natural resources are being restricted. And also the weather. Back then it's mentioned during Maharaj Yudhishthira's time, the weather was perfect. And even people they didn't undergo any so much mental disturbances, diseases, excessive heat or cold. But nowadays we see, during summer it's so hot, and during winter it becomes so cold. And the rain, during the times of saintly kings, the rain used to only come at night time. So at night when everyone would be asleep, rain would come, and it wouldn't bother anyone because everyone is at home sleeping. So the rain would come and would, water all the plants and the fruits and the trees. And in the morning time, there would be no rain. So this is what used to happen during the reign of saintly kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira. But nowadays, it just randomly happens, rain anytime during the day. You don't even know when it's going to happen. Weather forecast will say it'll be cloudy and sunny, but suddenly rain will also come. So the weather is all topsy-turvy. And this, Prabhupada describes this like when Hiranyaksha and when Hiranyakashipu, they were being conceived by Mother Diti. At that time, there were many bad omens. And a lot of the bad omens that we're seeing was, it was raining past stool, urine, and there was intense heat, and all these different things was happening in the sky. And Prabhupada writes, in his purports, Prabhupada explains in that canto that when demoniac persons are being born on earth, then the natural reaction for that is that the weather would be like this. There will be excessive cold, excessive heat, hail, storms, snow, all these things will happen in a country or will happen in a city where a lot of demoniac persons are being born. And Prabhupada writes in purport, that's why nowadays we're seeing in all these cities around Kali Yuga, the weather is so bad, the weather is so terrible. Places like, London or Melbourne, it's notorious for having such terrible weather. In London, every day it rains, so many times it rains. That's why when the persons from England, they come to Australia, they're like so happy, especially to Sydney. Oh, finally sunshine. So from this we can see a comparison, how previously when the saintly kings were ruling, when the citizens, they were devotees of the Lord, how everything was perfect. Nature was supplying everything nicely. The weather which is managed by the demigods was was going very nicely. But nowadays when demoniac, not kings, governments, they rule, and the citizens are also demoniac, then naturally Mother Earth, she will restrict her supply. And that's what we're seeing nowadays. So that's what we're discussing over the past few days. And now finally, in today's verse, we're hearing, now finally Krishna, he is ready to leave Hastinapur and go back to Dwarka. And before he gets on his chariot, so naturally when someone is leaving, he gets escorted by all the relatives and, everyone, they exchange nice words. That's the natural way of human dealings. So Krishna is also doing this. So generally, it's given in the Shastras that to our seniors, so this, the Shastra explained, we deal with 3 types of persons in our life. One is those who are senior to us. One is those who are on an equal level with us, they're like our friends. And thirdly, those who are lower than us. So the Shastra explained we should deal differently with all 3 levels. So those who are senior to us, we should be very respectful, we should be very obedient, and take the guidance and render service to them and get their blessings. So that's the way to deal with those who are senior to us. And secondly, the Shastras explain that those who are on an equal level with us, we develop firm friendship. So we develop on a friendship level, we help each other out and we discuss things, and we help each other in devotional service, in our spiritual life, mature life, like that. And then thirdly, the Shastras explain that those who are lower than us, or younger than us in age, or less intelligent, or less fortunate, we show compassion towards them. And we try and help them in the spiritual life, mature life, and we try and bring them up, assist them in the spiritual life, bring them up. So those are the 3 ways to deal with 3 different types of persons we come across in life. And in this verse, we're seeing how Krishna is exemplifying this with all 3 levels of persons. And especially the stress is given to how he deals with his elder. So for the sake of pastime, although Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, still just to enact pastimes, he is taking the position of a subordinate. And he offers obeisances to Maharaj Yudhishthira. So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he's elder than Krishna. So before Krishna leaves Hastinapur, he first offers obeisances and he asks permission from Maharaj Yudhishthira. Is it okay if I leave? I've stayed for a few months. I'm planning to leave. Can I leave now? Like this, he takes permission. Even though he's the supreme person, I got it. The whole universe is running under him. He's the one who created all these planets. He's the one, who created everything. So yet, he's asking permission from his devotee. Can I please leave? As if, he was under Maharaj Yudhishthira. So in his purport, Prabhupada writes that no one is greater than or equal to the Lord, but he takes pleasure in being treated as younger than his devotees. These are all transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So Krishna, he relishes this. He relishes being treated as younger or someone inferior in comparison to his devotees. In the previous chapters, in Bhishma Dev's section, we were hearing when Bhishma Dev, he was shooting arrows at Krishna. Krishna, he took those arrows just as, someone throwing flowers at him. That's how he took that. And Prabhupada in his purports is explaining that for Krishna, the chastisement of his girlfriends, he relishes that more than the Vedic prayers, the prayers from the Vedas offered by different sages. So in this way, we see how Krishna, just like an ordinary person, Prabhupada explains, just like the judge, he goes to work and everyone's offering respect and awe and reverence. But the real pleasure the judge experiences when he comes back home. And when the children, they nicely enjoy pastime and the wife talks to him, chastises him, he relishes that more when he's at home. And Prabhupada gives the example of the president. One time, another president had come to see this president, and this president said, "Not now, a bit later. I'm in some important meeting." So time was passing, and this other president was thinking, why is this taking so long? And he opens the door and he peeks in, and he sees that this president, who's supposedly supposed to be busy, attending to some important duty, he is acting as a horse, riding, on his arms and legs, and his grandson or granddaughter is riding on his back, and he's playing horse for his granddaughter. So in this way, Prabhupada gives example that we see with even ordinary persons that they like to take the position of someone subordinate, because that's where the real fun and bliss is. It gets boring just getting, praise and awe and reverence all the time. So that's why Krishna, he also enjoys and relishes this. So that's why we're seeing today's verse. Firstly, he offers obeisances to Maharaj Yudhishthira, bows down, offers respects, and then he takes his permission. Even though he's the Supreme Lord, he's asking permission. Can I please leave now, Hastinapur? I fulfilled your desire. I've stayed here for a couple of extra months. Can I please now depart to Dwarka? And then it's mentioned, the king says, yes, okay, you can leave. The king gives his, Maharaj Yudhishthira gives his sanction, and the king embraces Lord Krishna. So that's the first way, like we were saying, there's three ways we deal with three different levels. One is those who are senior to us, we offer respects, take their guidance, we serve them, and get their blessings. And the second is those who are on equal level. So in this case, Prabhupada is writing that Bhima and Arjuna, they were on an equal level with Krishna. They were like similar age, equal level. So that's why before Krishna left, he didn't offer obeisance to Bhima and Arjuna, but they just embraced each other. And then finally, Nakula and Sahadev, because they were younger than Krishna, they offered obeisance to Krishna, and Krishna, he gave their blessings and showed compassion to them. So there are three different things that I thought we will discuss today. But before that, Prabhupada especially, he highlights in today's purport about how Krishna, he takes pleasure in being treated as younger or as being subordinate to his devotees. So I made a few points to discuss. Classical example is of, obviously, Mother Yasoda. So Mother Yasoda, she's Krishna's mother, and like it's mentioned in Nectar Devotion, Mother Yasoda's Vatsalya Bhava, it dictates that if she doesn't take care of Krishna nicely, then, Krishna won't grow up properly as a nice kid. Something bad will happen to Krishna, and Krishna won't grow up, and different bad things will happen. That's why it's mentioned that Mother Yasoda, she was in constant anxiety about Krishna. Because Krishna, he would go to play in the backyard of the house, and she was constant anxiety, whether some birds will come, some forest animals will come, or Krishna would, step on some thorns, something like that. So she was, monkeys will come and, attack Krishna and steal something. So she was in constant anxiety, constantly thinking of Krishna, about Krishna's safety. And Krishna, he liked that. He likes to put himself in a subordinate position to his devotees. So the classic example of this is obviously with Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. They think themselves superior to Krishna. They think themselves that Krishna is just an ordinary child. If they don't take care of Krishna, if they leave Krishna alone, then, something bad will happen to Krishna, and that's how they're thinking. And Krishna and Balaram, they also feel themselves in that mood also. They feel themselves being covered over by Yogamaya. Krishna and Balaram, they feel themselves as dependent on Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, even though they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like at start of Krishna book, during there's like this section describing Krishna's naughty childhood pastimes when Krishna was like a little crawling baby. So what Krishna and Balaram do, they would crawl around the backyard, roll in the mud, become dirty, and then the calves, they would just grab onto the tail of the calf from behind, and the calf would get scared. Who is holding onto my tail? It's like a very sensitive area. So naturally, when you touch a dog's tail or any animal's tail, they freak out. So Krishna would just call it in the backyard. He will catch on onto a tail of a calf, and then the calf would get scared, and the calf would start running all around the backyard. And Krishna and Balaram, being scared, they also would become scared, and they won't let go. And they would just hold on. And like this, they would get dragged around the whole backyard. And in the whole backyard, there's mud, there's the milk overflowing by the cows, there's the cow dung, cow urine, and Krishna and Balaram will get smeared by all this, by the mud, by the cow dung, by the cow urine, milk. And like this, they would, the whole body would be covered by all these things, and they would get dragged across the whole playground. And Mother Yasoda and Mother Yasoda's friends, they would see all this, and they would nicely relish. And sometimes mention, Krishna and Balaram, they would just crawl, and they would see like a Mataji, like with a sari, and they would think that Mataji is, either Mother Yasoda or Mother Rohini. But they can't tell, because when you're crawling, you can only see up to this height. You can't see the person's head, unless you look up. So they would just see, okay, there's some Mataji they were saying, and they think, oh, that's Mother Yasoda. So naturally, oh, it's my mother. They'll start crawling. And then finally they'll get to the Mataji and they'll grab on to the Mataji's sari. And then finally they'll look up. And when they'll look up, they'll see, oh, hey, this isn't my mother, this is someone else. Then they'll start crying and quickly run away in fear. So in this way, you see how they're actually feeling that way. It's not just they're doing a drama. But Bhagavatam, the Acharyas explain that Krishna and Balaram, being overcome by Yogamaya, they're actually experiencing that. They're actually feeling themselves just as an ordinary child dependent on their mother. And that's how they're enacting all their pastimes. So like that we see with Mother Yasoda. Another time it's mentioned, one chapter is described in Krishna book how sometimes, Nanda Maharaj or Mother Yasoda, they would ask Krishna to lift heavy things in the house and bring them to them. And Krishna and Balaram, or Krishna, he would try and lift them, but it would be too heavy for him. Even though, Krishna is Ananta Shesh, he's holding the whole universes, all the universes on his head. And it's mentioned that all the universes reside on Ananta Shesh's head. They're just like white mustard seeds. Like the specific description given, not black mustard seeds, but white mustard seeds. Like black mustard seeds, they're maybe like 10 or 20 times bigger than white mustard seeds. You see like when Bengali devotees, they make like this Bengali, I think it's called sukto, with white mustard, it'll be like very, very tiny, just like a tiny dot. So Bhagavatam explains that all the universes which are lying on Ananta Shesh's head, they're just like white mustard seeds on his head. He doesn't even feel it. He doesn't even notice that all these universes are there. That's how light it is for him. But now Krishna, when Mother Yasoda or Nanda Maharaj, they're asking him to lift heavy things in the house, he tries to lift them, but he can't. And then when he can't, he just slaps his arm and then he just acts like in frustration. So like this, Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, they experience, great bliss seeing this. And another time, Nanda Maharaj, he would ask, or Mother Yasoda would ask Krishna to bring Nanda Maharaj's slippers. Nanda Maharaj is going to go out, please bring your father's slippers. And Krishna's father's slippers, they would be like, like wooden slippers. And Krishna would, great difficulty, he would strain very much and with great difficulty lift and then put it on his head and then slowly come and give to his father. So in this way we're seeing, and other time, in that same chapter, it's mentioned in Krishna book that Krishna was, many times the gopis, they would play the elder gopis. So Krishna would just be a little boy, and the elder gopis, who are like contemporary of Mother Yasoda, they would play around with Krishna. So it's mentioned that Krishna, he acted just like a puppet, just like a doll among these elder gopis. The elder gopis, they would clap their hands and sing, and they would ask Krishna to dance. And they would force Krishna to dance in tune with their songs, in tune with their clapping. And Krishna would act just like a puppet, just like a doll. And they would entice Krishna. Krishna, you dance in front of us, you do this, and if you do this, we'll give you a laddu, we'll give you some sweets. So in this way, there's so many different pastimes of how Krishna, he's just acting, as an ordinary boy, acting subordinate to his devotees. And we see that in Mahabharata, obviously, that we're seeing here how Krishna is acting subordinate to Maharaj Yudhishthira. And before the Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna, he took the role of washing the feet of all the guests, And Krishna, he also went as the messenger of the Pandavas. So in this way, Krishna, he's taking such a humble position amongst the devotees. And he's doing this because he relishes this. This gives him great pleasure. But this opportunity is only available for the pure devotees of the Lord. So it's not just for any devotee. Krishna, he puts himself in subordination, but he only gives this such devotional service to those who are pure, unalloyed devotees of the Lord. So that's why it's mentioned in the Shastras that devotional service is the highest thing. And Krishna, he doesn't give devotional service easily, because by devotional service, one wins over Krishna. So much so that Krishna puts himself under the devotee. So that's why giving devotional service to another soul, to a jiva, is a very rare thing. And Krishna, he's very strict and he's very careful. Because as soon as he gives devotion to that person, by giving him that service, Krishna is putting himself under that devotee. Because by that service, if that devotee does with nice sincerity, without any motive, then Krishna becomes subordinate to that person. So it's like a very big thing for Krishna. So that's why it's mentioned in the Shastra that very rarely Krishna, he gives devotional service to others. But Krishna, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Guru Maharaj mentioned, he breaks all the rules and regulations, and he freely gives devotional service to everyone. Like my Guru Maharaj, one class recently, when he was giving here in Sydney, he was saying that in Bhagavad Gita, there's that famous sloka, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochi Nakankshati Sama Sarvesu Bhutesu Mad Bhakti Mad Bhakta Labhate Param, that in this verse, Krishna, he gives the qualification to come to the stage of devotional service, the qualification to get devotional service. So before one can get devotional service, one has to be first on Brahma Bhuta platform. One must be liberated and be, on the Brahma Bhuta platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. He should be self-satisfied. Na sochati, na kankshati. He should not hanker after anything, nor should he lament after anything. He should be fully self-satisfied, Atma Rama. And he should see all living entities on an equal level. He should see everyone on an equal level, have no friends, no enemies, be equally disposed to everyone. If he satisfies all these conditions, then he attains my devotional service. So my Guru Maharaj was asking this question, how many of us, ticked all these qualifications before we came to devotional service? None of us. None of us were liberated souls on Brahma Bhuta platform. None of us were on that platform where we didn't lament or hanker after anything. None of us were on the platform where we saw all living beings on the equal platform. No, we didn't tick any of these boxes. So how did we get devotional service, So my Guru Maharaj was mentioning in this class that all the rules that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, all those rules, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu breaks when he comes. Krishna says you have to do this. Krishna says you have to surrender. And then I'll give myself, then I'll take care of all your sins. Krishna says you have to be Brahma Bhuta, you have to be Atma Rama, you shouldn't lament, you shouldn't hanker, then you get devotional service. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesam tu antagatam papam, only if one has freed himself from all sinful activities, then only can he attain devotional service. So many rules and restrictions Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita. But Krishna, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he comes, he breaks all these rules and he just freely gives devotional service to everyone. And we see that by our own selves, And Krishna says, before you take devotional, you should be free from all sinful activities. But everyone who comes to devotional service, usually they're engaged in at least some, sinful activity. Intoxication, meat eating, gambling, something like that. But still, some or other, we still were chanting, even though while we're doing sinful activities. None of us were Brahma Bhutas, none of us had fully surrendered, but still we got devotional service. And all of this is due to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. And that's like Srimati Radharani's mood, that she just wants to give devotional service. She wants to engage more and more living entity in Krishna's service. And she genuinely feels out of her humility that others are better at serving Krishna than her. So because when Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he takes the mood of Radharani. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he freely gives devotional service to everyone. And that's the only qualification we have to do devotional service. Otherwise, according to Bhagavad Gita, we have no, even now, after practicing devotional service for so many years, we're still not on that Brahma Bhuta platform. We're still on the liberated platform, not lamenting, not hankering. But still we're engaged in devotional service. So this is all due to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so that's how Krishna, he takes pleasure we discussed how Krishna, he takes pleasure by being subordinate to his devotees. Now the rest of the class we can discuss about, as I was explaining before, the Shastras explained that to our seniors we should offer our respects, we should offer obeisances, we should render service to them, we should get their blessings and get their guidance. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he demonstrates this through his own personal example, that when he goes to Ishwar Prabhu, he humbly bows down and takes instruction from him. And when, later on, these Mayavadi sannyasis, they ask him, how come you're always, sentimentally just chanting Hare Krishna, just like a madman? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how does he present himself? Even though he's the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Supreme Personality, he presents himself, I'm just a fool. My spiritual master said, I'm a fool number one. I don't know anything. My spiritual master said, you just chant Hare Krishna, and that's why I'm chanting Hare Krishna. So in this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's showing by his personal example how a devotee, he always puts himself as a subordinate position to devotee, subordinate position to his Guru Maharaj. So Prabhupada writes in his purport that the ideal mood of a devotee, of a disciple, is that in front of his Guru, in front of his authority, he always acts as fool number one. Even though he might know so much, even though he might be very advanced in devotional service, he might be very advanced in the Shastras and so many different things. Still, when it comes to his spiritual master, when it comes to his Guru Maharaj, he always acts as fool number one. He always thinks himself as a fool, and he presents himself in that situation. And I was hearing Radhana Maharaj, he also explains that a disciple, he always takes pleasure in being defeated by his Guru Maharaj, being defeated by his spiritual master. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he shows this by his personal example with Ishwar Puri. And also Ishwar Puri, he shows this with his example with his own spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri. So the classical example of ideal disciple and an unideal disciple is Ishwar Puri and Ramachandra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri's Guru Maharaj, he had two disciples. I think he had many disciples, but two disciples that's discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita is of Ishwar Puri and Ramachandra Puri. So on one hand, Ishwar Puri, during the final days of Madhavendra Puri, he used to serve Madhavendra Puri with such great sincerity. It's mentioned that Madhavendra Puri, he didn't have the strength to even go to the toilet. So Ishwar Puri used to personally bathe him, clean up after he passes his stool, urine, all these menial services Ishwar Puri used to do for Madhavendra Puri. So that's why Ishwar Puri, he got all the blessings of Madhavendra Puri. So this is a result. When we serve a great Vaishnava, we get the dust of the lotus feet. We get their blessings. And by their blessings, we advance more quickly. And on the other hand, Ramachandra Puri, he because he got swayed by Mayavad association, by association with impersonalists, he fell down from his position. And he criticized his Guru Maharaj. When his Guru Maharaj was chanting the name of Krishna and Krishna's associates, Ramachandra Puri criticized him. Why are you lamenting? You should be focusing on Brahman. You should be merged in Brahman. And when you're in Brahman, you should be happy. Why are you crying and chanting Krishna's name and chanting all these slokas? So in this way, he offended his spiritual master. And because of the offense, it's mentioned, all anathas, they came into Ramachandra Puri. That's given in CC. So when we offend another Vaishnava, when we criticize another devotee, then it's mentioned that all anathas, they will come and take shelter of us. So that's what happened to Ramachandra Puri, and then later on, it's like a long story. Then again, he goes and offends Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with Ishwar Puri. Also Krishna himself, he serves Sandipani Muni, his Guru Maharaj also. He serves in Krishna book. The best example is of when Krishna, he is sent to the forest to collect firewood. So Krishna and, I think it's Sudama, both of them. They get sent to the forest to collect firewood. So that's what the brahmachari used to do back then. So they went, and then suddenly a huge storm came. They collected the fire, but suddenly a huge storm came, and there was wind and thunderstorm, and the whole forest got flooded. And it's mentioned they were getting swayed. They were getting swept away in the river. Some other caught hold onto a tree. They climbed up, and they stayed there for the whole night amidst this thunderstorm. And all the relatives, Sandipani Muni and his wife, everyone back at the ashram, they're worried. Whole night they're gone. They haven't come back. In the morning, finally, when the hurricane or the massive storm is past, finally they find Krishna and Sudama. And the amazing thing is, even though there was such a great storm, even though they were being swept away by this river, this flood in the forest, and there was torrential rain and thunderstorm, still amidst all of this natural disaster, they were still somehow or other able to hold on to the wood which they went to collect. Naturally, when such crazy thing. Imagine an earthquake or something happens, like a hurricane or something. Naturally, the last thing we'll think of, is carrying some wood or carrying this or that. We'll just run for our life. The only thing will be in our mind is how to survive this, how to stay alive. But Krishna and Sudama, they were so fixed in serving the Guru Maharaj, even amidst all this storm, they still held on to the firewood. And even amongst this storm, they held on to firewood on top of the tree. And in the morning, they came back and they gave the firewood to the teacher. So when Sandipani Muni, when he saw the sincerity of their service to him, Sandipani Muni, he was just completely sold out. And Sandipani Muni, he showered his full blessings upon Krishna and Balaram. And there's few beautiful verses. I think Sandipani Muni or Sukadeva Goswami, they recite in Bhagavatam. And these verses, Sandipani Muni says that you as my disciples, you have sacrificed your very life. You have sacrificed the body. The body is supposed to be something that is more dear to the soul. And that very thing which is most dear to the soul, you have sacrificed for my pleasure, sacrificed for my service. I am eternally indebted to you. This is the greatest thing a disciple can do for the spiritual master. So in this way, Sandipani Muni, he offers his full blessings onto Krishna and Balaram. So in this way, we see how Krishna as Supreme Personal Godhead, he's showing us how when it comes to our seniors, we should render them service. And by offering them service, we get their blessings. And by their blessings, our path of spiritual life becomes a lot easier. And it becomes easier to practice. In one purport of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes that when we get the blessings of Vaishnavas, two things could happen. Either one becomes advanced without following the regulated principles. So generally one has to follow the regular principles for a long time, and after following regular principles very strictly and sincerely, then okay, one can become advanced, go to Raghunaga Bhakti. But Prabhupada writes, if one gets the blessings of a Vaishnava, then firstly, one possibility is that without even following the regular principles, he can become advanced very quickly. Or the second possibility, Prabhupada writes in one purport of Bhagavad Gita, second possibility is that the regular principles become very easy for him. So the same regular principles, which are very difficult for us, waking up in the morning, chanting 16 rounds, reading every day, studying Bhagavatam, controlling our mind, controlling anger, lust, greed, envy, these same, regular principles which we find very hard and difficult to do, if we get the blessings of devotees, if we get the dust of the Lotus feet, proper wise, the same regular principle will become very easy. And we can see that, kind of like our own life. Sometimes when we're initially in devotional service, it's very hard to wake up early in the morning. And we think, how are these devotees waking up so early in the morning? But through, after some time, just suddenly you just realize, before you know it, you're just naturally waking up early in the morning. So this is a result when we associate with senior devotees and we get their blessings. This is what happened. All the regular principles, which seem to be difficult, they'll become easy for us to do. Or secondly, the second option, as Prabhupada says, is that one would just become advanced very quickly. Without even following all the regular principles, you would just become quickly advanced. Okay, we're just on time. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and Tagore Premanande.